Hello, people of the Imperium, and welcome back to the painting part of. Let me grab the instruction manual so I forget exactly what it's called. Of the Trygon. I totally called another guy a Trygon by accident, but anyways. So, as you guys can see here, I have everything primed up. I should probably get a medal because, wow, I can't really think right now. Because of the fumes from the army painter are really high. I normally have like a little little USB fan about this big that comes out of a computer, and usually that's enough. I had to get one of those like full on like large, like really large desk fans, just so then the fumes could be tolerable and you wouldn't pass out from it. So be a little bit aware of that, just to let you know that, as you can see, I have primed them. I do need to go over a few little bits and pieces. Like this guy right here, I need to go over a little bit with Abaddon Black. Be back in a couple seconds for you guys. And basically, I'm going to be using, very old paint, Chaos Black. Had it for ages. I don't know why people say Themed Workshop paints dry out easily. I think I only had one. These ones dry out on me. These ones. Now, because of the size of this piece and the fact that I already have water on this, I am going to go straight from the pot. But if you have to do too much more than this, please use a palette. Palette can range from a plate that you don't really, or your parents don't really care about, or tile or whatever. So I'm just gonna start basically going over this whole thing. Now lay it flat to dry, or have it angled downwards with the bristles downwards, because you don't want water to get up into your ferrule here, which is the silver part on this brush, because that'll dissolve the glue eventually and then all the hairs will fall out. And you don't want paint all the way up there either. That's a lot more difficult to take care of. So as you can see, that's pretty well dry there. And it's going on nice and smooth. No brush strokes. Which is what we're looking for. Let me grab I actually want the face. There we go. So, this is probably one of the easier parts to start to paint. I'm going to start here. But just know that I'm going to be painting. I'm going to start off with everything except for the top of the carapace. Here. Like all this stuff. Except for there's some little vents that I'll get in and do. All the claws I won't do right now. But other than that, we're going to work on the main... We're working on the skin, basically, of this guy. But remember, it's the first coat. You're allowed to be messy. Just, I'll tell you later on that you'll have to clean it up with black. That's the only thing. And look down in the description for all the paint names that I will be using today. But I will say which ones I'm using when I'm using them. So the first one I'm going to use, Rakarth Flesh. So we're just going to base coat everything. That's not claws or carapace. Like for this guy, basically just going to do this little bottom part here. And I do have GW paintbrushes, so I can tell you that I'll be using a small dry, yes, and maybe a small layer. Yeah, I'll probably use a small layer for some parts, but let's just reshake it up. This paint is almost done as well, so and if I do not do something that you guys want to paint, feel free to go on to Warhammer TV. They have a ton of models there. They have a ton of tips, all that stuff. I've watched them before, so as you can see, that's this part painted. So I'm gonna do that for 2 layers on everything, and then I'll bring you guys back to do the next color. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Oh, and just to let you know about the name thing, I'm going in between High Fleet Horus after the Horus Heresy, which if you don't know about that story, go look it up. It is so good. Or Corn. I figure what would be the greatest insult to an Imperial soldier that has betrayed him? Betrayed the Emperor? would be to name a Xenos race after him. So, yeah, I'll be back in a bit here. Got a lot to do. Okay, so as you can see, the Rakarth flesh has been completed. Now we have to go over all of it all over again with Screaming Skull. Now the reason why we did this intermediate color is really what it is because this is a very thin paint. A very thin paint. So this just gives it a nice base coat. Because if you did it over black, it would actually change the shade a little bit. Whereas this acts as an intermediate to cover up the black and add a, and you'll still be able to see this color a little bit through. Oh, there's my, excuse me, here with my Brood Lord. Just get the see there with my Brood Lord. So we're gonna basically do it all over again here. This is that one that I was showing you that is pretty well empty. I want to use it up first before I open up my new one. So, again, I'll show you guys on the head here. After I load up my brush here. So I'm just going to go all over it. Remember to do 2 thin coats. And it is thin enough. And the fact that we are doing Tyranids right now, it's okay to go right from the pot. I'll finish up with all of the pieces. Then I'll bring you guys back again for the shade. So as you guys can see, I have completely done 2 thin coats. On this guy here. Now comes the fun part. Where we get to highlight it all with this shade right here. And then if you need to, you can neaten it up back with this Screaming Skull. But I've also realized, just by thinking about it, you could also base coat these pieces here. These are part of the carapace of him. So you can do 4 out of the 5 of them if you wanted to. But I'm going to wait until I would normally do it. So you can use a small airbrush if you really want to do just the areas. But I would recommend using a medium shade brush, but it's up to you. Don't go for the large shade brush. Please don't use this on it. This is going to be used on the base, which technically you could actually start it now. I'm going to wait. So basically, I am going to do the eye quickly here. Don't worry if you put too much. You can always mop it up. And in all the grooves along the neck here, you can see. So you see, just like that. Then I like to create a little bit of separation. Just let it kind of separates it just a little bit. Basically what this is panel lining. If you've done that before. Also, I'm going to put a layer on the inside of the mouth. Just like that. On the arms, there are the vents here. And all the joints as well. So you can see, just by doing that, it brings out some little things. So I'm going to continue doing all that to everything, and then I'll bring you guys back when I'm done. So as you can see, I've done all that highlighting. On all the pieces, except for the ones that don't need it. Now, all that we have to do is do a very fine highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh. I'm going to use my small airbrush. You do not need very much at a time. Pretty well, you're just highlighting it, so it's going to be very hard to tell. You guys can probably barely tell. So I'm going to continue on doing that, doing all the highlighting, and then I'll bring you guys back once we are done. You do not want to add too much, just little spots of it. On the higher areas. So I'm going to continue on with this on all the skin here. And then I'll bring you guys back once that's done. And we'll start on the carapace / claws. So I have highlighted all those little pieces. It's really hard to tell. But a trick I've actually learned is if you put like a little dot on it and you just rub it with your finger, and it spreads it out and then it makes it a little bit more transparent. Which is good. Now we're going to move on to the carapace. Which has a very simple base coat of Castilian green. That's all I'm using. As you can see, it is a brand new thing. Now I'll be kind of going in between maybe a large shade brush, large base brush, large base brush, a medium base brush, and a small shade or small layer brush. These I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using them the most. So put a little bit on my palette to start out with, and doesn't have to be perfect the first time. But you really want to avoid the skin as much as you can. And remember that it does dry a little bit darker. Basically what we're going for is a very dark olive drab color. For mine, or you can also change it up to whatever color you want it to be. There we go. So I'm going to continue to do that over all the claws and the carapace and stuff like that. And then I'll bring you guys back once I'm done. And we'll move on to the second step. And if you want yours to look like mine, I'm also going to do these pieces here as well. So, be back in a minute. I have done 2 thin coats of the Castilian green. Now, let me grab my brood lord here. My dusty brood lord. But as you can see, this green, especially here, is a lot lighter than this one. So I did a quick test with this one here. See how much closer that is. So what I did to get this was no oil. So what I'm going to do now is go over all the grain parts my normal palette here. Get a good dollop of this going here. And I am just going to start going over the whole thing with 2 coats. So that will add the separation in the carapace pieces, and B, that will darken it down to more of the tone that I'm looking for. So I will bring you guys back once that is completed. And don't forget to let it, don't go over one full section. Don't just stop in the middle. Keep on going. That whole section, as you do not want little weird tide marks to appear. Basically, you'll be able to see where you stopped and where you picked it up again. So I'm going to do that to all of the green. And then I'll bring you guys back once that is completed. Right now is the time to do little details. I mean, when I say little, I mean, actually, all those little stripes right there. So, this is going to be a little bit counterintuitive for the Citadel line, because usually you do a base before a layer. We're going to completely switch it up. We're doing a layer before our base. We are going to be doing doombull brown. And let me grab, what I'm going to use is my small layer brush, as I want a thick yet thin line of doombull brown, as you'll see in a minute here, or hardly see, because it's really hard to tell. Did not mean to do that. Oh, come here, thank you. Paint Gatherer by Tymia. You can get 2 of these in a pack. Really handy. What I'm going to do is do an edge highlight on the center here first. And as I say, I want it a little bit thick. So I'm just going to go down the sides just a little bit. And like you can see there, that's what I'm looking for. I'm just going to do big lines with some small ones in there. This is one time where it's okay to be a little bit, have some of the paint brush strokes in it. But that's basically the base coat there done. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to decide about, like, I'll show you later on how I did it. How I did my pieces, such as this weird round piece here, or this even weirder round piece. So I'm gonna go ahead, do that to everything, and then I will bring you guys back when it's done. As you can see, there's kind of a red tinge. That's from me doing what I showed you just a couple seconds ago for you guys. Just doing this. And when you're edge highlighting, you can just use the edge of your brush. It really creates a nice sharp line on these raised details. So I just did edge highlights on all 4 parts of the claws. I want to remove him from his base because we're also going to start the base because it takes a couple hours for it to actually set. So what I like to use. So I'm actually going to put it in its extra large base thing here. Come on, thank you. There we go. We'll deal with this in 1 minute here. In order to get, and by the way, on these circle parts, in the middle there's a little red line. It's going to be really hard for you guys to see. Let me just see if I zoom in all the way. You can kind of see it, but let me just adjust the focus a little bit. Yeah, you can't really see it, but there is a little red line in the middle. And the paint I use is the Averland Sunset. So, all that I'm going to do is just lightly touch it. As you guys can see, makes that beautiful line right there. And then you do not want to cover up all of the reddish brown that you've done before. On the claws here, I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way to about halfway down the claw. You guys can probably see that very well. But you can see it just makes it just a tiny bit more sharper. So I'm going to do that, and also I'll just mention this right now. For this guy, Just going to put a little line about where that red is. Just like that. Now for claws that I've actually done a little bit of streaking on, I'm going to all the way. There we go. So for these parts, I'm going to just do the ends. So you guys get the idea now. That is for texture paints. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's all clumpy and like someone put some sand in it or something. Basically, all I'm going to use is this big end here, because other end would take a year. Take some of this and just pretend like I'm icing a cake. Making sure to vary the thicknesses and all that stuff. There we go. That's a base done, or going to be done soon ish, once it dries in a few hours. So as you guys can see here, I have actually finished every single piece just like this. It is real. We are really close. We are about this close. Oh, there we go. There's better light. There's light. And so for a minute here, I'm putting this guy completely aside. So for I may borrow that for the base. That part for a second, but there's the base there, and as you guys see, it does magnetize on. Which is great. Casadora yellow? This yellow. This shade. So you can see I've used quite a bit of it. And I'm just gonna dunk this in and just I'm not trying to leave many pools of it. I'm just trying to get a good layer of this shade on. Just me, you think this is a lot of shade? Just wait till we get to the Castilian knight that I have. We're gonna go to this color here. So like up here I'm gonna reapply it just to make it darker, to give it a rich tone. And down here I'm going to do it again just to make it stand out from these areas here. There we go. Put that off to the side. And on both the mouths we're going to do the inside and the tongues. So right now I'm not 100,000% sure on where one on the normal mouth is, but I'll find it here in a bit. And you can tell it really just darkens up this tone to make it really nice. And the inside of this mouth, the top of the mouth. There we go. Oh, yes. For the adrenal glands here, we want to reapply it on the top of them. Just to do that. Make it really nice and beautiful. There we go. There it is. So on this tail, just going to reapply it here. And on all of these dots here. There we go. Let me pick that up and let me find that other mouth here, and then that part is done. So back in a minute. Now, I don't mind getting it on the teeth because we're going to do something special with the teeth here in a minute. I'm about to do something I've never attempted, never even seen done or anything like that. I'm gonna try hard coat to get a more moist looking effect on the mouth, especially for this part here to make it a little bit more shinier and stuff. But because I've never used it before, I want to use it in an area that's not that obvious. I want to try it up here. So what art coated is gloss varnish, gloss top coat pretty well. Mainly used for decals and stuff like that. And I know that there's about 1,000,001 different things out there you can use as a clear coat. You can see there how it's a little bit shiny. So what I have actually found in order to get highlights on this color here, on these, the best paint to use is Emperor's Children. Now, because I'm using such a tiny amount, I'm not going to use my palette. I'm just going to wet my brush, and then that should be good enough. As it is already a layer paint, which, if you do not know, is 99%. A lot thinner. And basically what I'm going to do is just run it along the sides of the tongue. That got a lot more moisture than I wanted it to. Then I can just go ahead and paint little bits here and there. I'm not caring about the teeth. We are going to go over that with a very dark color. Again, I'm just basically adding more of a boundary line for the tongue here. Then I'm probably going to want to just do like that. Basically, I'm just running the edge of my brush along here just to catch the highest points. Bring that up there. Bring that up there. You can see all the different colors and it looks really nice. Actually, it's not just the tongue. It's all of these kind of parts. And I'm not putting much pressure into it. I'm just basically letting the brush do all the work here. Even though you'll never actually see this area here, as it is where the head slot's in. And even on these parts here, like you get it just right, and it's very hard to tell that there's actually a paint on it. So my dry brush is now dry. That also means that all of this stuff is dry as well. See the shine on it. But for the base, get your Tyrant skull dry paint out. As you can see, I got some on my brush here. But I don't want this much. Just gonna work it into the bristles. There we go. I know it doesn't look like much. See, there we go. Oh, beautiful. Now, this is pretty well as far as I take these kind of bases. But what the dry brush did was just catch all the raised areas. Just makes it pop out that much more. We're going back to Rakarth Earth, which this one does not have much left in it. I know I have another part of that somewhere for sure, so I'm not too worried. And basically all I want to do is just go over all the teeth again. Now really you can use any color you want for this next base thing that I like to do. You can not do anything, you can just leave it like this. Actually, I need to take it out of there. Now I'm going to break one of the cardinal rules about thin coats. Yeah, no. This is Nato brown. It's literally just a color I just picked up and decided, oh, that looks good. Okay. And I've been using it ever since. But here's the kicker. It's a really nice brown. I'm going to use my medium shade brush. There we go. That's literally the base done. These two work hand in hand with each other. They work so well. Now I'm going to take my small layer brush and we're going to go over the teeth with it. You know what? I'm going to come back in a minute once that's dry, because I want to show you guys the right now he's tabletop ready. Well, technically he's done at this point. But because of the name-ish, and I also really like the look of it, I'm going to be showing you guys how to use this technical paint. This is a great technical paint. It really looks like blood. So, I'll show you guys that in just a minute here. Okay. So first off, make sure that Blood for the Blood Gods is really well shaken up. By the way, Blood for the Blood Gods, Skulls for a Stone. Oh, yes. This is probably one of my favorite parts. Because this is also one of the messiest painting parts. Except for this part right here. We're going to take some of it. And give him those blood red eyes. And believe me, at this point, it might actually be helpful to you to pseudo assemble him, as I've just done. If you haven't already, that is. So you guys are really zoomed in right now. Let me show you guys what we're dealing with right now. Okay, we are dealing with a monster screecher. I love it. I love it. Now we can take some and we don't wipe it off. We'll put some on his fangs here. Put some on it down here. Maybe a bit on his tail. Quite a bit on the base. Maybe struck somebody with his tail a little bit and a little splatter and you'd want to do some, but you don't want to go overboard. That's about all I want to do. Just to make him look like he's gone in the middle of battle and looks beautiful. Scything talons. They have a very sharp edge right here. Simply take your brush and rub most of the paint off. Gives you a nice dollop right there. Then you can even just add a little bit extra here and there. And maybe a little bit over here. And some at the end there. And there we go. Put that off to the side. This is really where you get to just go nuts. And not ruin your paint job, but enhance it. Okay. So, I'm just going to wait a couple minutes for it to dry. And I will bring you guys back for the big reveal. Okay, so I have you guys in freehand mode right now. As you can see, he's actually turned out really well. So, I'm trying to decide, well, I think the next time I see you, I will be going back to the Imperium of Man for a little bit. We may have some Terminators waiting to be prepared. Along with a few other Imperium things. Maybe a certain Primarch will join us. So, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and if you're new here and you've liked what you've seen, hit that subscribe button. And if you're one of the veterans here and you've liked what you've seen, hit that like button. Lets me know to continue on with what I'm doing here. And until next time, remember to rock on.